Let's hear more now. We're joined by Lord Peter Hain via Zoom. Lord Peter Hain, thank you so much for your time this evening. You have again raised the issue of Bain and Company during the question and answer session in the House of Lords Committee meeting. This is not the first time, of course, you've been talking about this. And are you receiving a positive response from the UK government?
Well, frankly, they're being a bit equivocal at the moment. They're not committing themselves, but I'm continuing to push because I think it's outrageous that Bain and Company can be considered at all for contracts funded by the government, funded by taxpayers here in Britain, when they have been condemned by Justice Zondo's commission for acting unlawfully and recommended for prosecution. Remember that they, on President Zuma's orders, effectively dismantled the effectiveness of the South African Revenue Service SARS, and that's unforgivable. And they shouldn't be allowed to get away with just operate here in the UK or anywhere else in the world as if nothing's happened.
Now, also another issue that is also in the spotlight is the arrest of the two Gupta brothers in the United Arab Emirates. What's your reaction to the news?
Well, I'm pleased that at least they've been arrested at last. But frankly, it should have happened years ago. I mean, this is now over 3 years since they fled the country, and they've been hiding their assets, the billions of rand which they laundered abroad through international banks like HSBC and Standard Chartered and Bank of Baroda, as the Zondo Commission has confirmed. And they've been spending it, lavish weddings for sons, buying property in Dubai and elsewhere. So the money is disappearing fast, and the fact that they have been arrested, though we wait to see whether the United Arab Emirates government will extradite them, as the South African authorities have requested, and they should, and I will be pressing the British government to talk to the UAE government and in the hope that that will occur, because they must be brought to justice. Otherwise it'll happen again, and we know that corruption and forms of state capture have not ended in South Africa, and people who continue to want to climb on the gravy train and loot so shamelessly from South African taxpayers, stopping money being spent on housing and health services and schools and so on, they must understand that they will be brought to justice. And so getting the Guptas extradited and facing trial in South Africa is a very, very important symbol of reality and a symbol of the determination of the South African authorities to put them behind bars where I think they should be.
And one of the most important things as well is also going to be, while this is a significant step in arresting them and detaining them and then fighting to get them back home, is that this extradition process, some have said, needs to be finalized as speedily as possible in order for this matter to be brought to finality as soon as possible in South Africa.
Absolutely. Every day that goes by, every week that goes by, every month, every year that goes by, that money will just be hidden or spent. And we're talking about billions and billions of rands. And that's why it's taken a long time already. And we can't have any further delays. And I hope, therefore, that the UAE government will cooperate fully. I'm pleased that the Gupta brothers, or two of them at least, have been arrested. But there must be full cooperation. Justice demands this, and frankly, good relations on an international government level require it as well.
And there's also going to then be all eyes on the NPA here in South Africa to ensure that it has a watertight case investigated thoroughly in order to make sure that then when they are brought back, they do have a case to answer to, because some are saying that that is where the proof is going to have to be as well of this particular pudding.
Absolutely. It's very important because we've seen cases get off, people who are obviously guilty, get off on technicalities with clever lawyers, paid a lot of money to find all sorts of ways around the law and the system, and to explore, to expose technical problems in the prosecution. I hope that this won't occur. I mean, I've got great confidence in the head of the NPA, Shamila Butoi, but, it's important that justice is seen to be done. And I think there'll be millions and tens of millions of South Africans who want to see that happen, as well as former anti-apartheid campaigners like me, who feel that what's happened under state capture under former President Zuma and the Gupta brothers is a total betrayal of the values of the freedom struggle, which were about equality and equal opportunities and justice and human rights for all, not about people looting the country and damaging the prospects of the poorest and the most powerless, which is the consequence of this terrible looting.
And talking about South Africans, many people feel that the main culprits, the big business or multinationals, are being let off the hook. Do you share the sentiment, especially when you're looking at some of the happenings that we've seen also in, coming out in details in the State Capture Commission?
Yes, I do. And that's why I've focused since I was asked to do this. I mean, I didn't do it simply on a whim. I was asked by leading South African figures and one of them deep inside the Zuma state at the time, to actually expose the international dimension, the corporate complicity, the global brand names like McKinsey and KPMG, the banks like HSBC and Bank of Baroda and Standard Chartered, Bain & Company, and so on. Because the whole terrible saga of scandal of looting and state capture under former President Zuma and the Gupta brothers could not have happened, at least on the scale that it did, without these global businesses cooperating. And that's why I come back to my question in the House of Lords today, to put pressure on Boris Johnson's government to refuse Bain & Company to have any contracts with the government here, and it's had multi-million pound contracts. You multiply that by 20 and you get the idea of the scale of hundreds of millions and maybe billions of rand worth of fees they've had from the British government in recent years. And that must stop, because they've got to pay a price to make sure that they never do anything like this again. Because otherwise, otherwise state capture and corruption will be repeated in South Africa, and if not in South Africa, then in other countries. They've got to feel the heat so that they never behave in this grubby, criminal way again.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. Do appreciate it. That is Lord Peter Hain, former UK Cabinet Minister.